I remember the first morning I walked into the community center, and it hit me before I even said a word. Whispers curled through the air, eyes flicking toward me, then darting away. I felt the weight of their judgment before it even touched my skin, a subtle yet sharp reminder that I didn't belong here. Every head turned for a split second when my name came up, and every pause was a quiet sentence I didn't need them to speak aloud. She doesn't fit in. The invitations arrived a week later for the annual ladies' brunch. I found mine lying untouched on the counter at home, almost pleading for recognition, almost screaming that I had been deliberately excluded. My hands hovered over it, hesitating, wondering if I had done something wrong, wondering if this omission was some cruel mistake. Then I remembered Margaret's voice, that self-satisfied smirk curling as she whispered to her friends, "Oh, we didn't think she'd fit in." The words hit my chest like a sudden sharp blade, a pang I hadn't felt in years, reverberating with every memory of past dismissals. Scrolling through social media later, I watched last year's gathering come alive in vibrant photographs. Women laughing, clinking glasses, their joy documented without a single hint of me. My absence wasn't subtle. It was glaring. It was public. It was intentional. Later, Emma, my sweet, perceptive niece, looked at me with wide, innocent eyes and asked, "Why isn't Aunt Clara invited?" I froze. The words tasted bitter on my tongue. How could I explain exclusion so cruel, so deliberate, to a child who saw me as her safe harbor? I fumbled, muttered something about scheduling conflicts, but the lie felt hollow, even to me. At the grocery store, my humiliation continued in the most mundane way. There they were, Margaret and her clique, laughing together over shopping lists, sharing inside jokes I would never hear. The world seemed to shrink around me, the aisles closing in, the fluorescent lights now harsh and accusatory. I walked past them, the sound of their laughter like nails on a chalkboard, echoing in the hollow spaces of my chest. That evening, back in my cozy living room, the walls felt tighter, pressing closer than ever before. Isolation didn't just sit beside me, it wrapped itself around me, suffocating and sharp. And then came the neighbor's careless comment, tossed like a stone into my chest. She must have done something wrong. The word struck harder than any blow, a sting, a slap, a confirmation of every doubt I'd tried to bury. I sat alone that night, the quiet of my home amplifying every heartbeat, every pulse of anger, disbelief, and rising determination. My own heartbeat became a drum of defiance. The humiliation burned, yes, but beneath it, a seed of something darker, stronger, and far more deliberate began to take root. I didn't know exactly how yet, but I knew this sting wouldn't go unanswered. This wasn't the end. It was the trigger, the spark that would set everything into motion. I remembered those long childhood afternoons, sitting quietly while my ideas drifted past unnoticed, my drawings set aside, my words softened into nothing. Creativity had always been my refuge, yet it was never acknowledged, never celebrated. The sting of being overlooked settled deep, embedding itself into my bones, whispering that I was meant to be invisible. My first heartbreak arrived not from romance, but betrayal. A childhood friend who smiled while stabbing me in trust. That scar lingered, a constant reminder. Never trust their smiles. The lesson was cruel, yet clear. Each betrayal, each dismissal shaped me in ways the world would never understand. Marriage was supposed to be a sanctuary, yet even there I had to navigate carefully. Robert, my husband, was supportive but cautious, always watching for the temper I rarely showed. Sometimes I wondered if he feared my wrath more than the world did. Still, our bond endured, fragile yet steady, a quiet anchor amidst years of subtle exclusion. I could still see it clearly, the first PTA meeting where a circle of women ignored me. My suggestions laughed away, polite nods masking disdain. My voice vanished into polite chatter, drowned beneath the weight of their laughter. That moment etched itself into memory. the first clear marker of a pattern that would repeat itself over decades. Subtle dismissals, whispered judgments, quiet erasure, each became predictable, almost ritualistic. But with each wound, a different strength grew. Patience sharpened like a blade. Observation became instinct. I learned the quiet art of resilience, of waiting and watching, of letting the world underestimate me. Solace was found in my small acts of rebellion, painting late into the night, hosting intimate gatherings at home where laughter was genuine and unnoticed. These were my hidden victories, unnoticed by those who thought they held power over me. I opened old journals one evening, their pages yellowed and worn, and found the same thought repeated, written in my own careful hand. They may try to silence me, but they cannot erase me. The words burned like a promise, a shield against further humiliation. Exclusion, I realized, was never personal. It was fear, fear of authenticity, fear of the unpolished truth I carried quietly, fully, unapologetically. That evening in my studio, I lit a single candle. Its flickering flame reflected in my eyes, sharp and deliberate. I stared at my own reflection and whispered a vow the night would carry into every corner of this town. Next time, they would notice. Next time, they would remember. Weeks drifted by, each day punctuated by the constant chatter of the ladies' group. Photos tagged with laughter, plans shared openly online, each post a reminder that I remained unseen, excluded, deliberately erased. The sting of absence gnawed quietly, persistent and insistent. Then came the announcement of Margaret's exclusive wine tasting. Invitations fluttered into mailboxes, everyone included, except me. A display of social dominance thinly veiled as sophistication. I watched the photos, the excited comments, the sly pride in her smile, and the heat of determination ignited within me. From the shadows, I observed their group chats, careful and deliberate. I noted the loudest laughs, the whispers, the blind followers. Every subtle interaction was a map, revealing patterns of arrogance, alliances, and weaknesses. I memorized their gestures, the way their eyes flicked when gossip passed, the hierarchy invisible to anyone else but clear to me. Quietly, I reached out to former acquaintances they had overlooked, people sidelined, underestimated, ignored. I rekindled friendships buried beneath years of neglect, weaving connections they assumed were lost. With each handshake, each renewed smile, I built a network they had never imagined could exist beyond their clique. At charity events, I moved along the periphery, a presence felt but not proclaimed. My elegance, composure, and quiet strength drew subtle attention. Eyes lingered, whispers followed, but I remained untouchable, untethered, a shadow observing without revealing intent. Every insult whispered behind my back, every laugh at my imagined absence became intelligence. I stored it like treasure, each morsel of arrogance feeding my understanding. They revealed themselves fully, unwittingly, providing me with the blueprint of their social empire. Emma, my innocent niece, carried fragments of gossip, snippets of upcoming gatherings, unaware she was my unwitting ally. She returned from school or play, recounting details with excitement, her words feeding the sketches forming in my mind. Inside me, tension simmered like molten metal. I planned, visualized, refined every scenario, each audacious, daring, precise. No step was left to chance. Every movement had purpose. Every reveal had timing. I began the quiet transformation of my home, curating elegance that demanded attention. Invitations were drafted, each one a whisper of audacity, a hint of the spectacle to come. The environment itself would be impossible to ignore, impossible to overlook. Margaret, once confident in her dominance, began to sense the shift. Her smirks faltered in the corner of her eyes, subtle flickers of doubt betraying her rehearsed composure whenever our paths crossed. Small victories came like sparks, affirmations of the strategy taking hold. A neighbor praised my garden with genuine admiration. A friend commented on the refinement of my interior design. Even a local chef sought collaboration. Each acknowledgement was fuel, each whispered compliment sharpening my focus. Their laughter, once a dagger to my confidence, now became a tool, a reminder of their underestimation, a metric for my planning. The more they dismissed me, the more powerful I grew in observation, in patience, in preparation. Every insult, every slight, every sneer was building toward the moment when they would finally see and understand that I had never been absent. I had only been waiting. One morning, Emma came running into my studio, her eyes wide, a mixture of excitement and guilt. "Aunt Clara," she blurted, "Margaret's been saying things about you. She's telling people you're difficult, that you can't host properly, that—" Her voice faltered. I felt my chest tighten, then clench, a mixture of anger and vindication coiling like steel within me. It wasn't just exclusion anymore, the stakes were higher. This was character assassination, lies designed to humiliate, to make the town doubt me. That same afternoon, my phone rang unexpectedly. It was Daniel, an old friend, a journalist whose integrity I trusted. "Clara," he said quietly, "let's make sure the town sees the real story. Discreetly, carefully. They need to know what's true." His words lit a fire I hadn't realized was smoldering beneath the surface. I wasn't alone. Well, then opportunity presented itself. A neighborhood charity auction, Margaret's annual showcase, her moment to flaunt dominance. I saw it clearly. Timing was everything. My own event could coincide strategically, outshine her display, command attention, and force recognition. I began meticulous planning. The guest list was curated like a chessboard, placing influencers, community leaders, and the very women who had excluded me in positions where they couldn't ignore my presence. Every detail was deliberate, the catering refined, the music selected to set atmosphere, the lighting warm yet striking, floral arrangements that demanded attention without screaming it. Awe and envy would coexist in the same room, admiration mingled with subtle shock. I teased their awareness with calculated glimpses, small hints shared to pique curiosity, images of preparations meant to stir intrigue. And as predicted, Margaret's first suspicious message arrived the moment the invitations were sent. What's she planning? Her words, dripping with concern, were exactly the signal I had hoped for. In that moment, clarity crystallized. This wasn't just revenge. It wasn't a petty retaliation. It was revelation. A mirror held up to their arrogance, exposing the talent and elegance they had dismissed for years. Every slight, every whisper, every exclusion had led to this. I was ready, and they would finally see that their judgment had been blind. The night of my party arrived, and the estate gleamed under soft golden lighting that spilled across every corner, warming the freshly polished floors and casting gentle shadows on the walls. Classical music wove through the air, delicate yet commanding, setting the stage for a spectacle they could not ignore. Guests began to arrive, murmurs of admiration following in their wake. "Her taste, it's impeccable," one whispered. "I can't believe this is her home," another remarked. Years of hidden creativity, of quiet gatherings unnoticed by the world, now demanded recognition, and it was breathtaking to watch their reactions. I greeted each guest with calm, measured grace, a serene smile masking the fire simmering beneath. Their eyes widened as they took in the elegance, the subtle audacity in every arrangement, every choice I had made. They expected something ordinary. They were confronted with extraordinary. Margaret arrived last, striding in with practiced confidence, expecting superiority. But at the threshold, her composure faltered. Her mouth opened slightly, her eyes widening as she took in the grandeur, the artistry, the carefully curated displays. Silence hung heavy for a moment, her arrogance collapsing under the weight of recognition she had never anticipated. I led them to the centerpiece, an art installation telling stories of exclusion and resilience. Each painting, each sculpture, each delicate display whispered my journey, my overlooked presence, my patience, and my quiet strength. The pieces spoke louder than words ever could, a silent testament to years of dismissal and hidden brilliance. Influencers and local journalists began capturing every moment, snapping photographs, live streaming, posting stories. Within minutes, social media buzz ignited, praise and astonishment cascading across screens. Whispers began circulating in the room. Her party, it's incredible. And Margaret's? A subtle legal twist underscored the evening. A small charitable donation tied to the event's success brought to light Margaret's prior mismanagement of funds, without confrontation, without overt accusation. The truth emerged quietly but undeniably, exposing cracks in her carefully constructed facade. The emotional impact struck hardest where I had longed for it. Former friends who had dismissed me for years now approached, tentative, regretful, seeking connection. Apologies spilled from them, belated and uneven, tasting of acknowledgement long overdue. Until Margaret, unable to reclaim her dominance, retreated quietly, her signature smirk replaced by forced politeness, eyes darting with the realization that the balance of power had irrevocably shifted. I remained composed, savoring the triumph not in vindictive revenge, but in dignity, in creativity, in the undeniable affirmation of my worth. Every glance of awe, every whispered compliment, every moment of recognition became a quiet victory, proof that patience, planning, and silent resilience could dismantle arrogance and demand acknowledgement. For weeks, the town buzzed with conversation. My party became more than an event. It was a case study in social recalibration, a lesson in subtle, brilliant retribution. People whispered about the elegance, the audacity, the quiet power I had displayed. Messages began arriving from women who had long felt sidelined, overlooked, or dismissed. They shared their own stories, inspired to reclaim their voices, emboldened by what they had witnessed. Each note warmed me, a ripple of acknowledgement spreading beyond my own victory. Emma hugged me one evening, pressing close, her voice soft. "I always knew you were amazing." Her words carried the weight of truth, pure and untainted, and for the first time in years, the validation I sought wasn't forced. It came freely, from someone who truly knew me. Margaret's influence waned naturally. She no longer led the ladies' group with unquestioned authority. Her presence diminished quietly, unforced, leaving space for authenticity and merit to surface where arrogance once ruled. I continued hosting gatherings, not as acts of revenge, but as celebrations of genuine talent, creativity, and connection. Each event became a sanctuary where inclusion, warmth, and appreciation thrived. The art installation remained in my home, a silent witness to resilience, creativity, and the quiet power of patience. Every glance at it reminded me of the journey I had endured and the triumph earned through perseverance and strategic grace. I noticed a subtle but profound shift in myself. Confidence bloomed from within, an inner glow that came from standing tall in my truth, unshaken by dismissal or ridicule. New friendships formed, genuine and heartfelt, connections forged without pretense, without arrogance, without the shadows of exclusion. These were bonds built on mutual respect and shared understanding, not on social hierarchy. Eventually, tentative invitations arrived from the ladies' group, hesitant attempts to pull me back into their orbit. I smiled politely, declined with calm assurance, content in the circle I had consciously chosen. I reflected often on the path I had walked. Revenge had never been about punishment alone. It was about revelation, about showing the world and myself what had been hidden, overlooked, and dismissed for too long. I had proven, without anger or spectacle, that dignity, patience, and authenticity always demand recognition. I sit facing the camera in my sunlit living room, the evening sky bleeding amber through the windows, casting long, warm shadows across the room. The air hums with quiet reflection as I take a slow breath, ready to recount the journey that has defined me. I was excluded. I was whispered about. I was dismissed, I begin, my voice steady yet carrying the weight of every slight. And yet, every moment of humiliation, every glance of dismissal became part of a meticulous path toward acknowledgement. I lean slightly forward, eyes locking with the lens. Being underestimated is not a weakness, I continue. It's a weapon when paired with patience, creativity, and careful, deliberate planning. It can reshape perceptions, it can reveal truths, it can demand recognition in ways no shouting ever could. Montage clips flicker across the screen. Evenings spent planning alone, sketches and notes scattered across the table, my estate transforming in quiet anticipation, the party unfolding in breathtaking elegance, guests' stunned expressions as realization sinks in, Margaret frozen at the threshold, arrogance crumbling. Each frame speaks of strategy, poise, and the elegance of unseen power. Revenge, I say softly, isn't always loud. Sometimes it's elegant, deliberate, and unforgettable. It's a revelation, not a spectacle. It's about showing, not telling. I gesture lightly toward the room, toward the space I've crafted. Your worth isn't measured by those who exclude you. It's revealed in the legacy you quietly build, in the moments of patience, resilience, and steadfast authenticity. I raise a glass, the soft reflection of light dancing across its surface. Celebrate yourself, even when no one else notices. That's true power. Text overlays the screen. If you've ever been underestimated, share your story below. Let's reclaim our voices together. The final shot lingers on the glowing art installation, candles flickering gently, casting shadows that dance like quiet triumph across the walls. Each flicker a symbol of patience, resilience, and ultimate victory. Cinematic music swells, emotional and immersive, carrying viewers through the lingering sense of triumph and reflection. The screen fades softly to black, leaving a lasting impression of empowerment, strategy, and the quiet elegance of justice served.